It's easy to lose sleep when you're worried about your health insurance plan. But when you have a family counting on you to take care of them, having the right coverage is more important than ever. That's why Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield is here to help. With low to no cost plans for you and your family, so you never go it alone. That's our Anthem. Click to learn more.
Looking for a single transportation service to handle all of your transportation and logistics needs? LCG Logistics is backed by years of exceptional on-time delivery and is uniquely qualified to provide the coverage you need at the right price. Based in Ohio, we provide dedicated fleet service throughout 48 states and Canada. LCG Logistics is small enough to care and large enough to handle your shipping properly. Call 614-272-4052. LCG Logistics, your single-source transportation supplier.
Israel is 5,690 miles away from the U.S., 11 hours by plane. Hate travels faster. In a comment, in a post, in a second. Jewish hate is up 388% in the U.S. Black hate, Muslim hate, and Asian hate are up too. When one hate rises, they all do. Let's stand up to all hate together. Share and wear the blue square from standuptojewishhate.org.
Hey guys, this is Neena Perez, and this is Straight Talk, No Sugar Added. Thank you guys so much for being here. I love you guys. And as you know, I've been trying to go around and be on other people's podcasts. So here is an episode from another podcast. I hope that you enjoy it. I will link their information below so that you can like, subscribe, share, follow. You know all the deal. Let's do this.
Welcome to the 30-minute hour. It's the personal development podcast for entrepreneurs who are looking to level up and become unstoppable. I'm your host, Eric Twiggs, your procrastination prevention partner. Joining me as always, you know him as the super CEO, the business strategist extraordinaire, and all-around good guy, Ted Fells.
Happy Monday. Happy Monday.
It is certainly a happy Monday. These Mondays are going by real fast. It's already the end of January. Who can believe it?
I think the older we get, the faster it comes.
Neena, I am telling you, before you know it, we'll be 112. Before you know it.
So as
Feels
they say,
that way sometimes.
Father Time is undefeated.
That's right. That's
You
right.
just have to make the most of the time we have. And speaking of which, we're definitely going to do that today. The theme of our show today is the 3 secrets to becoming a rock star after hitting rock bottom.
Wow.
After hitting rock bottom, our guest is going to share her inspirational experiences of how she overcame various challenges. And this is important. This is an important episode because at some point you're going to face an unexpected, unanticipated challenge. That's just the reality of things. And the key is, what do you do? How do you overcome it? How do you get to the point where you're better than you were before? So we're going to discuss those things. But before we go there, you need to know this is not your everyday podcast. No, we do things a little different here on the 30-minute hour. Ted, did we didn't give Neena the warning, did we?
Can't tell her too much that she might be like, oh no, I'm not doing that with those guys. It's going to be okay, Neena. It's going to be okay.
I got this.
No, she does. I tell you, I had the honor of being on her podcast a few weeks back, and I have a feeling she'll fit right in, Ted. So.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't think that'd be a problem at all. But for those of you, you can watch us live, right? Some of you are watching us right now on Facebook, on LinkedIn, or on YouTube. You just type in the 30-minute hour in the search bar. You can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all of those fantastic places where you like to consume your content for podcasts. So once again, today we're talking about 3 secrets to becoming a rock star after hitting rock bottom. So we're going to go ahead and introduce our guest. She is a coach, entrepreneur, author, speaker, podcaster, and a chef. She uses all she's been through to encourage and impact lives one at a time. She's written her autobiography, which is called Hit Me With Your Best Shot: How I Overcame a Hard-Hitting Life, which is a story of abuse, teen pregnancy, domestic violence, abortion, hard times, divorce, poverty, finding faith, overcoming and hitting life back when life hits us hard. So please join me in welcoming to the 30-Minute Hour podcast, Neena Perez.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Welcome. Truly an honor to have you on. Let's jump right into it. So please, I know I mentioned some things during the introduction just now, but please share with us in the audience just some of those hard-hitting experiences that made you and shaped you to who you are today.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of them, so I'll try to do this fast. This is a 30-minute hour podcast. But I started off, I think, just on the wrong foot, right? I mean, my mother and father were both married but had an affair, and thus I was the product of that. So my father really didn't even claim me. I don't even have his last name. So he just didn't even claim me. And then my mother kind of just moved on and tried to get her life together and had, her first love of her life or whatever, dislocated my arms when I was a child, when I was a baby. And then she left him for that. And then she got into another relationship to a man that I really considered like my father. And he was with me from 1 year old, and about 5.5 to 6 years old, I started to get, he started molesting me. And then I went through that experience, and I'm going to try to like go a little quickly because it's a lot of stuff. And then, I got, through that experience, it was a couple of years of that. And then, of course, being somebody who's feeling unloved, unworthy, not being really watched over, I had made really stupid decisions. And so I started dating someone in my teens. And I got pregnant at 14 years old. I had my child at 15. I was still in middle school when I was pregnant and had my baby just at the first year of high school. And then that was a horrible relationship. It was a very, very violent relationship. It was full of domestic violence, and he almost killed me. So he put a gun to my head. He pulled the trigger. But I give it to God that the safety on that gun got jammed, and I'm sitting here today.
Wow.
And then, got married to someone else and divorced. He left me for a younger, slimmer model. And it's just been like trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma. And then, I've been homeless. I've lived in shelters. I've, slept in my car. I've done all of that stuff. But I think all of that now that I've done some personal development work, now that I've actually healed from all of that, I look back and I thank God for it. I think it has made me a superwoman, really. Like there's not a lot of things that can break me, you know? And I've been through a lot. And so, I don't want to go through all of that again, but I'm glad that I went through it. And I also realized that even though I went through it with a lot of turmoil, some depression, anxiety, and stuff like that throughout my life, I also now realize how strong I was, even as a child, right? To overcome those things, to just get up the next day, to keep going. I didn't go to college until I was 35. And that's because I thought I was too stupid to go to college. And, being a Hispanic statistic, right? Having a child at an early age and, being, coming from poverty and just always struggling. Um, it was something that I said to myself at 35. I said, my kids are grown now. I have two, and then two from my husband because I'm remarried, and I realized, it's time for me. Let me see what I can do here. So I went back to school. I went back to college to get my certification as a chef, but then I fell in love with education. So I went all the way through to getting my bachelor's degree, and I graduated with a 4.5. I was the valedictorian of my school. And I realized maybe I'm not so stupid, So I just use everything I've been through in my life now to impact and pull other people up, because there's no reason why we should be all down there by ourselves, So I hope that answers your question.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, that's an amazing story.
Yeah, man.
Oh my goodness. So I mean, Was there a time, was there ever a point where you were asking yourself, well, why me? Why is this all this stuff happening to me?
100%. I mean, there was many times where I wanted to just ram my car into a tree. You know
Mm,
what I'm saying? Or, just like jump off a bridge. Of course, I mean, it was just too much. It was too much. Right. And, with my son's father, the reason you read on the bio about the abortions is because, he used to beat the hell out of me and rape me. And then I would end up pregnant. And because I was raped, the trauma from that, I didn't want to carry any more children. And so that was just a really tough, tough time. But that also hits you too, right? Because not only are you abused, but now you're abusing your body too. You know what I mean? So it's like a double whammy type of thing. As a woman, that's a hard thing to go through. And as I try to, because I'm one of those people that have always my whole life just strapped my boots up and just make it happen. And even though I'm struggling inside, I'm suffering inside, but I still make it happen anyway. And so I'm grateful to God for that gift of tenacity, that grit that I'm glad I have. I don't know if I would have made it through half of the things, but yeah, heck yeah. I used to scream up at the sky all the time, like, why me? What is going on here? Another thing, really? So yeah, 100% I've gone through that. Yeah.
So I interact with people all the time who they're like victims. Like it's like they go through like they had something unfortunate happen, and they'll remind you of that, and they use that for a reason that they can't move forward. Well, this happened, my
Mhm.
parents, my this, my that. I mean, what is it about you that you've actually taken all of these experiences and you haven't become a victim, and how are you able to use these experiences as a springboard when a lot of people would just use this to hide and be a victim?
It's not like I wasn't a victim at a point. You know what I mean? I struggled with depression and I struggled with anxiety, and I was very, very much a victim, right? Because
Mm,
when you're struggling with those things, it's because you're not dealing with them, right? And so you start to become a bit of a victim. And the pity parties were definitely
mm,
something I had, and I had invitation to them and everything. I love pity parties, you know.
mhm,
But
mhm,
there comes a time in your life where you get sick of yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like there just came a time where I was sick of being a victim, and I was sick of struggling, and I was sick of crying all the time, and I was sick of being in that place. It was unhealthy. And so, I've chipped that away at it throughout the years. Little by little, I've gone to therapy. You have coaches in my life. I believe that every person needs somebody, a coach, a therapist, something to get them through. And as I started to, I said I'm 50 now, but when I went to college at 35, I realized the blessing of who I was and the strength that I had, even pouring into other people and seeing their life changing and saying to myself, you can't be sitting in this mess and trying to help other people. This doesn't, they don't even go together, you know?
mm,
So I started to work on my personal development, but it takes time, Eric, and it's a decision you have to make on purpose. Like you on purpose have to make the decision that you won't be a victim. And my faith
mm,
has a lot to do with it too, because I am a Christian. I believe in God. And that has a lot to do with it for me, because I know that I laid down my depression to God and I said, you take this, God, the burden is too heavy.
mm,
And I want to live a life that is free. And I know you want me to live a life that is free. And when
mm,
I was able to lay that down, Eric, it was weird because he did really take it from me. I haven't been depressed in over, like, I don't know, 25 years. And that
mm,
was because when I laid it at his feet, I meant it and I never picked that back up. It never became my thing, you know? And so I started to realize that in order for me to overcome and to be able to impact lives, I need to fight back. And that's when I started to really put the nail in that coffin of shame and all of that when I wrote my book. And that was back in 2018. So maybe like 4 years ago. And that's what really helped me, because that was very cathartic. Writing that book and writing everything I've been through. Anybody who reads it always goes, oh my gosh, how does one person go through all of this? And I don't even realize it because I'm already healed from it. You know what I'm saying? Like now it's not my story anymore. My story has become somebody else's story to help them move forward.
mm. So we have people right now. Someone right now is watching us,
Mhm.
and they feel like there's no hope, that they're in a dark place, everything is going wrong all at the same time. Could be business related and others. I mean, just based off of your experience, I mean, what advice do you have for that person to help them to move forward?
Well, the first thing I will always tell everybody is to, check yourself. So get really comfortable with being uncomfortable,
Mm,
because there's something there that's really, really hurting you. The first thing I had to do when I had to face this monster of, this depression and all that going on in my life is I had to overcome shame. Shame
Mm,
was huge, huge for
mm,
me because I was not wanted from young. At least I felt unwanted,
yeah.
and I was abused and I was molested and I was beaten and I was all those things and never had the covering and the protection of a father and never had the covering of protection of faith because I wasn't really a person of faith at that time. And so I was very much lost. And I realized that I had to overcome this hiding, this thing that was eating me from the inside out, which is shame,
Mm,
right? Now, I believe there's two kinds of shame. I talk about a lot about the two types of shame. I think there's a healthy shame. If I did something against you, Ted, or against you, Eric, I should be ashamed of myself. And that should shift me into being a better moral person and change my behavior, ask for forgiveness and move on, right? That's what shame is supposed to do, right? It's supposed to shift you. But then there's that unhealthy shame, right?
mm,
That shame that somebody did to you and you carry it as if it's your fault or your responsibility or something that you have that you had a part to. I had no part in my stepfather molesting me. It's not what I
mm,
wanted. I fought him all the time, but I was a little kid, right? And so I carried that shame though, because when I
mm,
told my mom, I said, "Mom, listen, he molested me or he touched me because I didn't know the word molest." She
yeah.
told me to shut up and stop lying. So
Wow.
immediately I was unprotected and I felt unloved and I felt stupid, right? Because how dare I say anything? I shouldn't have said anything. Now she's mad at me, that kind of thing. And
Mm,
so I will tell anybody who's listening, I'm telling you that I'm telling you there is nothing you can't overcome or come back from. Nothing.
mm,
Nothing. Everything has redemption. Everything. Right. And so you have to overcome whatever you have done in the past, whatever you have done that's super shameful, because we've all done some stuff. There's nobody listening or in this room that hasn't done something that they have
right.
truly regretted in their life or
Mm,
has had something done to them.
mm,
So I say the first step is really look at yourself. I always say this as a joke, but it's not a joke. Like, check yourself before you wreck yourself,
right.
right? So you have to like sit there and really check yourself and check what's going on there. And don't like, I don't know about you guys, but I for a long time, like if something comes up that's uncomfortable, I like kind of ignore it. I'm good, I'm good, I'm good.
Mm, mm,
And I've decided the last maybe 10 years, I'm not doing that. If I feel it, I'm sitting with it. I'm sitting with that hurt, that pain, that uncomfortableness, that anxiety, whatever's coming. And then I go to the root. Why am I feeling that?
yeah.
Because I'm not going to be letting you come up all the time and judge me in my head every time something triggers me. I don't have time for that. Like you said, how many Mondays have gone by already? I
Yeah.
can't be wasting all these Mondays, on somebody else's nonsense or on even my own nonsense. I have to like
Mm.
fix it and move on. That's just the way my mind works.
So when did you have that moment that you was just like, enough of this,
Hmm.
let me get my arms around this and change the trajectory of this situation in my life.
That is a really good question, Ted. And I don't think it was a moment, right? I think it's a group of moments. I
Mm,
think is when you're going through something and you're boo-hooing like I used to because I was a victim.
yeah.
Um, I think it's really just checking myself every time that happened. Every time I was going through something, I would stop myself and say, "Okay, Neen, what's going on here? What
Mm,
is this?" Because you crying about this, but it feels like you're really crying about this, you
yeah.
know? And that's what started happening. I just started to really become aware. I started to become self-aware. Prayer for me also is a huge thing, right? So a
Mm,
lot of prayer went into this. A lot of every time I was going through something, God just exposed it to me. Just show me what this is. What is this? Why am I doing this? And I would sit in silence and it would be horrific. I hated it. because I would cry. It would hurt my chest. It would hurt my throat, like, because I was like in pain, in emotional pain. But you know what, Ted? It is literally just starting somewhere. Just be self-aware at that moment that you are feeling that rage, that anger, that sadness. It's your responsibility to check that. Nobody can really tell you. I mean, a therapist can give you a little bit of help, but in reality, you know what's going on in you. You know what's happening. You
Yeah.
know that you're feeling angry at that moment. You know that something happened to you that you don't want to expose because it's shameful. And sometimes you don't need to expose it to the world. I just ended up doing that and writing a book about it. I don't know what I was thinking, but that's what I did. But that's a great question. It wasn't a moment though for me. It was literally prayer and pushing through each emotion, regardless of the consequence. I just wanted to know. I was just too curious to find out why. Why am I feeling like this?
Powerful, powerful. So now you have the situation where, okay, you're going through a hard time just because life is just hitting you, just things are happening beyond your control. But then sometimes you have a situation where you're in a bad place because of decisions you made,
Mm-hmm.
where maybe it's an investment decision, a business decision, a decision within the business. And now you're in this place. When you look back, it was your fault. It wasn't a random event. In some
Right.
ways, that's even more challenging to deal with.
Sure is.
What's your advice on that? Like, how can someone rebound when they know deep down it was their fault that they're in this situation?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things are our fault, right? A lot of things, bad business partners, bad investment in something you thought was going to work out for your business. Of course, a lot of stuff that we invest in is for greed purposes. Let's be real. It's because we think it's going to be quick, fast, and in a hurry, right? And the money's going to be coming in. And when it doesn't, you mad? You are so mad because you spent all this money on something that did not produce, right? So it's greed purposes too. You have to
Time
ask
and
yourself,
money.
time and money. Why did you do it? Right. And so what I do a lot, Eric, is when I make stupid decisions, because I'm going to make a lot of them and I have made a lot of them, is I look at the decision I made and I ask myself, first of all, why did I make this decision? Right. So, is it greed? Yep. A lot of times it was greed. It was wanting something fast and in a hurry without having to put in the work. Let's just be real. That's what it was. Right. But I also realized that I can look at every situation now, anyway, in my life and thank that situation for the lesson.
Hmm.
So instead of me staying in that, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. That is so stupid. I don't do that anymore. I look at the situation and say, man, and I've done this, that was like the worst investment I made in this coach or whatever. Right. And I spent a lot of money and I got nothing out of it. What did you learn, Neen? This is how I talk to myself. What did you learn, Neen? Well, I learned to really do my background check on this situation. I learned B, to go with your gut. A lot of times your gut will tell you, my intuition will tell you this wasn't right, but you did it anyway because you thought it was going to be easy. So I really check myself. I really do. And I always thank that situation for the lesson it taught me. And then I let the rest of it go. So I have this saying I always say is that chew the meat, spit out the bones, right? So when I look at a situation, I chew the meat, I get the nutrients and everything I got to get out of it. And the bones I throw out. And
Wow.
that's what I do with a lot of situations in my life. Okay, this was a bad situation to move. What are we going to do about it? Well, I already moved. That was a bad situation. Okay, what do I get out of it? Well, I got a new neighborhood. I know what I don't want to do next time. I do the, you know what I'm saying? So I pull the good,
Yeah.
throw out the rest. I don't got time for all of that stuff in my life because then you can literally be on this hamster wheel the rest of your life, constantly beating yourself up for what? It
Yeah.
gives you nothing. It
Yeah.
doesn't serve you. So that's one question I always ask myself, is this serving you? No? Okay, then let's move on because it's not serving you. What are we doing? And I talk to my I talk to myself like this, like I talk to everybody like this, because I mean, I just feel like I'm a straight shooter. That's who I am. And I don't have time to play around with games in my life, and I don't have time to play around with my clients' games or anybody's game for that matter. So that's how I do it.
I have a quote that I just posted. I just believe this to be true. I just think like your life is always moving in the direction of the question that you ask yourself.
Oh,
or the
that's good.
questions that you ask yourself. And you
That's good.
ask some powerful questions like, what did I learn from this? I mean, just think how powerful that is. If
It
you
is.
have a setback and you keep asking yourself, okay, what's the lesson? Where's the gift? You can't help but to get better. And then that question about how is this serving you? I mean, that's another powerful question. And then sometimes you have to answer, well, you know what? It's not serving me at all. Maybe this is
Right.
something I need to be moving away from. But I want
Yeah.
to talk about your book.
Sure.
Connect with. So it's hit me with your best shot. How I overcame a hard hitting life. Who would you say is the target audience or the target
Oh,
reader?
I think it's really anyone who's gone through something, but mainly women, I think,
Hmm.
because there's so many deep discussions in there, about the abortion and domestic violence, and men also suffer with domestic violence. That people don't talk about it, but it's true. But it's the majority is women, so it's usually women that have read my book. I didn't know this, but there was women having book clubs with my book. There was all kinds of amazing stuff happening with that book, and I only wanted to at least touch one person, and I've touched many, many people. So
That's
women
great.
is really the target audience, but I've had men read my book because their wife had the book and they read it. They're like, "Holy cow." And I'm like, "It wasn't for you, but okay, I'm glad you enjoyed it." So I think anybody who's really gone through something and just needs to realize and see that you can make it another day, that tomorrow is coming. Now, you may not be promised tomorrow, but you may. But you may. So if you might, why don't we make today the best day ever, even with the bad stuff, right? Because you might die tonight. So let's just make it happen, right? This conversation could be my last conversation. This conversation right now is the most important conversation I am having because I'm not promised later,
Mm.
right? So it's mainly for women, but I think anybody who wants to be a little bit inspired.
Okay, so we're talking about the three secrets to going from rock bottom to becoming a rock star. Let's go to the book. What's secret number one? What's the first thing someone can do? One tip from the book that can help somebody get out of rock bottom.
I mean, the biggest one for me, I mentioned overcoming shame, but the one neck and neck with that is unforgiveness.
Hmm.
Unforgiveness will kill you. It will kill your dreams. It will kill where you're going. It will kill your partnerships. It will kill your decision making abilities. Unforgiveness will hurt you more than you know. Unforgiveness is poison, honestly, right? Because unforgiveness is honestly something that holds you back from moving to your true potential and who you really are, because you have allowed someone else or some situation or even yourself, like bad decisions you made that you can't forgive yourself for. You have allowed those things now to come and be that barrier and that wall that won't let you climb to the next level of your life. That's facts. And I know people say, "No, I'm successful without forgiveness." But I bet you if I touch something, I will trigger something, I will hurt something. I will, you know what I'm saying? Like there is
Right.
always something that will stop you from reaching your full potential if you are holding grudges and holding unforgiveness towards yourself and others. And I'm not saying that you have to go and have coffee with somebody. I'm not going to go have coffee with the guy who molested me. You know what I'm saying? But I have let him go. He has no power over me. Like right now, because I let all of that nonsense and garbage go, is the reason I'm a six-figure earner now. Because I was able to say, you know what? I let you go because your poison cannot be my poison. I can't I can't be like letting you, me drinking the poison and hoping you die, right? And I just can't be that person. And so unforgiveness, Eric, is probably like one of the biggest things I learned about my success story. And it goes neck and neck with the shame.
So it sounds like the first key to really getting out of rock bottom is overcoming this feeling of overcoming this habit of unforgiveness. And
Hmm.
it's funny you say that because Ted and I, you and I talk all the time about how hey, I'm my own worst critic. Yeah, I've heard you say that, Ted. I'm the same way. I'm really hard on myself,
Yeah.
but I think we have to be careful that we forgive ourselves, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
When things happen, when we make mistakes, where even if it's just life is hitting you, I think you have to be able to forgive yourself. Ted, I
You
mean,
have
any
to.
comments on that, Ted?
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, just in listening to Nina's story, I just been just like, Like, Ted, you're not saying anything. Like, you're just frozen. Like, I'm just captivated by all of this. Like, I'm stuck, right? I mean, because, I think we all have these situations in life and we think, oh, man, I've been dealing with the worst stuff ever. But I always say that, everybody has their box, right? Their box of what it is, whether it's, the things that you've gone through, health, family. Like some people just have just this amazing box, right? You're like, man, that situation is great. I was listening to something the other day, telling someone about this, I said Beyonce was doing some concert, was getting like $25 million to do some concert in Dubai. And she was like, for an hour, and then she giving it to Blue Ivy. I'm like that kid had no choice in who her parents are. But she's having this amazing situation, right? And then others, you're just like, man, it could be, all kind of craziness that you're, that's in your box, right? And you have to deal with it, right? It seems real easy, right? You may look at someone that has a situation like that with a silver spoon, and you're like, oh man, that's great. But then some of the things that we've heard recently with, people and committing suicide and all that. And they looked like they had everything going for them, like everything going for them. And then they, just something, and you just don't know what a person has gone through. And you hear that saying of, you don't look like what you've been through, like looking at you and listening to you. And then when you just started telling the story, it was just like, wow.
Is she telling the truth?
Yeah, right. That sounds good, Neena. Did all of that happen, Neena?
Right. I didn't even believe it, Ted, when I wrote it down. I was like, Lord have mercy.
Yeah, but that, your faith and resilience and all of that, just, you're definitely able to, be a blessing to others, which is great. So I don't know if I answered Eric's question or not, but I just was like, yeah, just all these things that are just kind of spinning in my head, just listening to you.
No, great comments. No, I mean, I think like everybody's going through something that we know nothing about.
Yeah.
It's easy to look at people on the surface and feel like it looks like they've got it all together. You just have no idea of some of the trauma and the situations that they've been through.
What can you do? Like sometimes it gets kind of going back to what Neena said. You can just go in a corner and just, break down. I mean, but that's not going to fix it. Right. At some point, you gotta, say, okay, I gotta move forward, and turn this around, and that's the key, that you can, you can turn your situations around.
Yeah,
for sure. So we talked about overcoming unforgiveness. So what's the second secret from the book that can help people get out of rock bottom and ultimately become a rock star?
I think standing in your truth, standing not just in your truth, standing in the truth. Everybody's your truth is different. So I didn't mean your truth. Stand in the truth. And what that means is like, look at things for the reality of what they are. Look at the truth. Whether you like the truth or not is irrelevant. Truth is truth. Truth doesn't care about your feelings, right? So we have to make sure that when we are looking at any situation, whether it's business or work or career or home life, relationships, all of that, make sure that you stand in what is true. What is a true fact? What is it that you're seeing in front of you? How is it that you can analyze this, work this out? Because a lot of times, if we're going to go into business a little bit, entrepreneurs, we tend to be in love with our little babies that we created, and our babies ain't going nowhere and they ain't growing. And we still stuck in the baby. You know what I'm saying? Like, because we thought it was a good idea. So here we are stuck 5 years later with the same business idea that ain't moving. And it's because we are not looking at the truth. The truth is maybe that we're not serving a customer. Maybe nobody's being served by what we think people need, right? Or maybe there's a different angle that we haven't decided to look at yet because we want it to be our way or the highway. And then it's the highway because nothing happening, right? And so I think standing in truth and in reality and what is real is very, very vital for you to move forward, for you to have impact in everybody's life, but also in your own. Not everything has to be so shiny and fancy, right? And that's what one of the detriments, but also the things that we've allowed ourselves to get into is too much social media one-shot pictures. Somebody rents out a car, takes a picture in it. Now you think their whole life is like beauty and glam, and then they go out to go jump back into their hoopty after they take the picture. You know what I'm saying? But why? Because it's not true. It's not truth. But if you can stand in who you authentically are, like really digging deep, like I said before, and uncovering what it is you're going through and just standing in who you really, really are, and then look at your job and your strategies, your businesses, your sales, whatever it is, and look at it with a real eye. I don't need thousands upon thousands of followers. I just need to know that the ones that are following me are being impacted. You know what I'm saying? Like I went recently and just cleared out all of my followings. Why do I have all these fake bots on there? I don't need you. I don't need to pack in the numbers. I need to impact people. And if you're a bot, you're not being impacted, you know? So I think that's something that we need to look at is truth, just truth.
So how does, I mean, that's powerful right there, especially like when you talk about the whole, we have these ideas, and we all love our, as business people, we love our ideas.
Yeah. I love my
We feel
ideas.
smart that we came up with it. So
Right.
how do we face the reality that the idea isn't working, and we need to, how do we get to that point where we can just stand in the truth?
I know, right? For me, it's feedback loops, right? It's feedback loops. So when I'm like right now, I'm building a whole new platform for women to help them transcend their shame so they could self actualize and be in their true potential, right? So in order for me to do that, I had to build out all these new frameworks that I'm building out now because I want to help women like really conquer their inner child, their, inner adult, all the shame that's going on, unforgiveness, all the stuff we're talking about. And in order for me to know that this is even what is wanted, I have to get feedback,
Mm,
right? So I get a cohort of women, random women, and I have them go through the program, even if it's just a portion of the program, one by one of the program. I have them go through all of the handouts, the workbooks, the ebooks. That's how I do it. And then they're like, oh, I don't like this, or this didn't really speak to me. I didn't understand that. That's how you improve. It's not about, oh, this is the best framework ever. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I think it's pretty great, but how do I know? Then what's my purpose? I think that's where we start. What the heck is my purpose then? Is it to build a business so I can sit back and look at it? Or is it to actually cause impact? Right.
mm,
And so when I look at it, when it's actually to cause impact, okay, who do I want to impact? Why do I want to impact them? In which way do I want to impact them? Right. And so when you go through that and you get your feedback, that's how you improve. You become
mm.
better. You know what? This business idea didn't work. Let me just get rid of that. I've done that many of times. And sometimes I still wanted my baby sitting on the side waiting for me, like, I'll come back to you, my love. You know, but I never do. It just sits there. So I think that that's how you get into the truth is that you start to be put your big girl pants on, put your big boy pants on, and get some feedback so that you can actually make something that's going to impact somebody else's life.
Mm.
That's how I do it.
And that is just so important, having that
Mm-hmm.
that other set of eyes that to give you that
100%.
feedback and help you to make those changes, those uncomfortable changes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
No,
I mean,
that's
you
that.
could be a baby about it and not take the feedback and get all mad because people don't like your idea. That's an option. It's a poor option, but it's an option, right? So it's always about just really, if you're gonna ask for the feedback, then be a grown up about it and know that feedback is gonna come and be okay with the fact that you got feedback and improve. It's only gonna make you better. I promise you. It's only gonna make you better.
No,
Yeah.
fantastic point.
Yeah,
So
yeah, no one should be able to kill your dream or your vision, even with some
Mm-hmm.
feedback,
Mm-hmm. No,
right?
exactly.
You take that feedback in and listen, and for everything that's out there, right? There's someone that's heard someone say that idea sucks, right? Like it's not going to work. It's never going to make it. I mean, everyone's had that, right? But
Of
if you
course. But
believe in
then
that vision, yeah, you're gonna still push through it. Thank you for that feedback. Is there any reason
yeah.
something that you don't like? No, I just don't like it. Okay, okay, all right. But
Well, yeah, then they're not valid. That's the other
that's
thing
what.
too, right? Is finding people who are actually going to give you the correct feedback. And what I mean by correct is that they actually have done the work and actually know what they're giving you feedback on, not these people online that just decide to have a little keyboard confidence and just sitting there typing some foolishness, and here you are, like your whole dream is destroyed because one person behind a keyboard somewhere in the Atlanta, decided to
Yeah.
decided to go ahead and insult
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
idea. I mean, we got to stop that. We give too many people too much power over our lives. And it is true. Like, if I have a cohort of women that I trust, and I say to them, hey, listen, I have this concept, but I don't know if it's gonna do well. What do you think? And I send it to all of them because I trust them. They're professionals.
Mm.
I don't just put it out there in the world of LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever and have everybody give me feedback. Ain't nobody got time. Nobody got time, because you got too many people with too many, and I call them dream killers. Two people that they can't get their dream off the ground, so they're going to try to kill your dream, right? So feedback is important.
No, this is
What's
good.
the
I
right?
think Ted, you brought up a good aspect of this whole thing. Yeah, you need feedback, but sometimes you have haters,
Yeah,
right?
you do.
And sometimes
That's real.
they're projecting their limits on you. So that's
Mhm.
why I think it helps to. I think it takes a level of discernment. I think sometimes you get to the point where sometimes somebody gives you feedback and it just doesn't sit with your spirit like something
Yeah.
you should really act on.
Mhm.
So I think that level of discernment and getting a trusted group where
100%.
that they've got your best interest in mind, that's what helps you to stand in your truth. But
And
I'm
that
telling you,
they
but
understand what you're doing, right?
yes,
Because if you're doing podcasting, but you go to somebody who maybe never listened to a podcast before, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're not going to understand what you're doing. They're going to be like, podcasting, what is that? Why are you doing that? Right? But if you talk to other people who are in podcasting and have been doing it a while, then you get that feedback. Like, you have to also be strategic. So you get the right people around you and get the feedback, because it's going to help you grow.
The interesting thing I've learned is anyone that I've seen that has started something and they've stuck with it, like eventually it happens for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like
Well,
eventually it happens, right? Like,
because a lot of times we think it's gonna be, like I said before, like that instant Lipton instant soup, right? You just pour a
yeah,
little hot water and you got some soup going on.
that's it.
When
That's it.
I'm a chef, right? Soup
Yeah.
can take me sometimes, depending on what kind of broth or whatever I'm making, 24 hours, right? So sometimes you
24
gotta,
hours.
well, yeah, if I'm making my own broth and if I'm making my own, beef stock or chicken stock, that takes, yeah, that's low simmer,
Man.
18 hours, right? Skimming off the top, making some real broth. So
Nina,
it's either,
I'm gonna be like, where the crackers, Nina? I need something to snack on. Anybody can wait 20. Anybody got time to
I
wait no
would
24
start
hours?
before you came by, Ted. I remember
I'm
that.
hungry, Nina. I'm hungry. Where the crackers? Where are the crackers?
it's like this is a
Right.
24-hour broth, and this is the first hour. Come on, I'm hungry.
Yeah, so when dinner gonna be ready?
That's
It's gonna be
so
ready
funny.
tomorrow. What? It's gonna be
Listen,
ready
you can have
tomorrow.
that or Lipton soup. That's all I can tell you. That's a mess.
That is hilarious. All right. So first you have to overcome unforgiveness. Next you got to stand in the truth. What's the third secret?
You know what? I think it is allow yourself to dream really big.
Mm,
Allow yourself to dream beyond your dreams. And what I mean by that is, coming from a background that I came from, I really did not have any dreams of doing much. I wanted to be a chef. And so I did go for that. But I never had a six-figure dream. I never had that. It was always work 14 hours a day, bust your tail, take care of your kids, and die. Right, because that's all I've seen in my life, right? From
mm,
my family members and stuff. And so you start to, like, limit what you think you can do. I was just one of those people who survived every day. I just survived, right?
mm,
Until I started to invest in me. And I think that's the biggest thing I can tell people: invest in yourself first. No one can steal your education. Invest in yourself, whether you invest in coaching, whether you invest in some type of mentor group, some type of mastermind, whatever that is. Invest in yourself first, because even if everything got taken away from me, I have the knowledge and know-how to make stuff happen. Right. And it's because I invested in my education and invested in who I am as a person. So dream beyond what you think you can dream. Dream huge, dream big, dream scary. Right. Because the process of overcoming the things you've already done, right? So you've overcome shame, you've overcome unforgiveness, you stood in your truth, right? You started to let things go so you can have more coming into your life. So dreaming big means that you're going to take all of these different things in your life, and you are going to now for me, walk in faith with God, and know that I can do all things, right? And what I can't do, I will figure it out, you
Mm.
know. But I love dreaming beyond what I thought I could ever dream before. And sometimes you're like, that's a lot, but you know what, if you write it down and you start breaking down the steps and rewind, like work backwards, you'll be surprised how much faster you can get there. It's kind of amazing. So dream beyond your dreams.
Wow.
Dream beyond your dreams. Now, I mean, it's no accident. The high achievers that I've been around, I've had some high level coaches. That's one thing they've had in common. They were big thinkers.
Mm-hmm.
And then no matter how much I'm going to charge, they're all like, you can charge more. You can do more. You could. I think there's no accident
Right. Right.
to that.
Yeah,
So
I used
no,
to think
that's
very little of myself, especially when it came to that. And then I started writing down all of my years of experience, my knowledge, my know-how, the grit, the things I've done, overcome. I'm like, dang, girl. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you doing? What what is going on here? Like, you
Mhm.
have way more to you than you think you do. Stop this
Mhm.
nonsense, you know? But I recommend people to do that too, because a lot of times we forget what we've done in our lives, what we've overcome in our life, the things that we know how to do, the things we are experts in. We forget that. And you would be very shocked and amazed at how much knowledge you have that can be viable, that you can actually use to make money with, you
Mm.
know? So dream big and go for it. What the heck? What do you have to lose? Tomorrow's not promised. Make it happen.
so you were starting to mention you think it's a good idea to write it down, kind of go back through
Yeah.
your kind of your list of accomplishments, what you bring
Heck
to the table.
yeah. Oh yeah. Every time I talk to my clients, that's what we do. We break down their knowledge. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially if they're trying to start their own coaching or consulting business or something like that. I break it down. Okay, what how long have you done this? What do you do this? And have you ever thought of this? Because sometimes you have a knowledge base that you don't even think it's important.
Mm.
Right. But then when you look back, you're like, wait a minute, not everybody, just because you know it so well. And that's the thing, right, Eric? Like, you guys know, like when you know something so well, you think everybody knows it, but that's not the truth. You know that is not the truth. The truth is you have knowledge beyond what other people have. And I don't care if you are, 3 chapters ahead of someone, you are still ahead, right? There's always somebody who can learn from what you know. Always. So I don't know if you guys remember that story about that professor that, he got caught out, and it turned out that he wasn't a professor. And when they asked him, all of your students have passed their classes, all of your students have done great in their grades, how did you do that when you're not even a qualified professor? And he said, I was always a chapter ahead. He
Mm.
actually was teaching in a university a
Wow.
chapter ahead of the students and wasn't even a professor, right?
Wow.
That shows you that you have knowledge that is a chapter ahead, and you can teach somebody, anybody. You can teach them if they are willing to want to learn what it is that you have to offer.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
My,
Yeah.
I'm, Nina, I'm going to have to borrow that story in
Yeah.
another setting.
Boy. Boy.
Yeah, that was a good story.
That
That
look,
that's great.
that was real right there. That was great.
I always think about that because every time we think we don't know, I promise you that you do. And I promise you, you know more than that person who is in need of what you know. I promise you. It's always somebody.
Wow.
Yeah, always a chapter ahead. No,
Always a
that's
chapter ahead.
there you go. That's excellent. And you're the host of the Straight Talk, No Sugar Added podcast, which is actually
Correct.
one of the most successful podcasts on the planet.
It's
Right?
not doing
You're
too
on
bad.
what's
It's not
that?
doing too bad. It's not doing too bad.
That too bad. It's in the top 1.5%
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
the planet. Now, congratulations.
Thank you. It's really fun. It's just me talking to people about real life topics. And I like to have people on that come on to grow, challenge, and transform the way we think.
Mm.
And that could be about business. It could be about life. It could be about healing. It could be about faith. I just like to talk about life topics because we are alive and we are here. And so I like to impact people in the way that they think. It's
Okay.
fun.
No, that's great. Anything else people can expect when they're not listening to the 30-minute hour and they want to find us another another podcast? What else are they going to get or gain from listening?
Well, I think you'll always walk away with something, whether it's a tool, a tip, a resource, something, because that's the whole point. The whole point is to highlight the person who comes on so that they can have a really, hopefully, an in depth conversation about what they do, but also about how they impact other people's lives. I want to make people human, right? So you can't just be, the 30-minute hour podcast. You have to be Eric. You have to be Ted. You guys have to be human first, right? And so I try to pull out that human element. That's why we always talk about where you came from, who you are, things like that. And that's what I think drives my audience because they like to hear people's stories. And when they hear your story and how you've overcome, then they feel like, I got this. I can overcome too. So it's
All
great. I
right.
love it. Super fun.
Let me tell you, this has been a great conversation.
Thank
I
you
mean,
for
you look at
having
the
me.
inspiration, and then she was able to break it down to just tactical things, tactical nuggets that people can go back and implement. Just a combination of the two. I mean, this is, if you're just logging on, you need to rewind. Take your finger and rewind. I know you're on the phone watching us. So just take your finger and rewind because you want to go back and get the. That's right. Thanks,
You know,
Ted.
you're like you're aging us, right, Eric? You talk
Right,
about
right,
rewind.
right,
They know
right,
people
right,
don't
right,
rewind anymore.
right,
Go
right.
backwards, whatever you do. All right.
Right, that rewind.
I love it.
So we're about to do the final segment. It's called "Write This Down," and we go around and give at least one key takeaway from this episode that we want
Mhm.
people to write down so they can level up. So Nina, you're the guest of the hour. What should people be writing down so they can level up?
Oh man. Oh, that's a good question. What should you be writing down so you can level up? The first thing I think I want you to do is to have three things that you are truly grateful for. Three things that you are truly grateful for. And don't sit there and say, I ain't got nothing to be grateful about. If you just said that, you got a voice and a mouth, that means you should be grateful. So if you are alive, that is one thing to be grateful for. If you woke up this morning, that is one thing to be grateful for. A lot of people did not wake up this morning. So write down three things to be grateful for because that's going to start to shift your whole mindset and let you know that there are things to be grateful for even in the midst of hard times. So that would be my tip
Write that down. Find three things to be grateful for.
daily.
Thank you. I think that's great advice.
Thank you.
Okay, Ted.
I mean, following behind Nina, that's just tough. That's tough, tough, tough. So, I'm just thinking, I think you have an audience and people are watching, right? And they're watching how you go through stuff and how you do what you do. And you have no idea, you know. People will look and say things to me like, "Oh, Ted, you've been doing this for so many years, and I remember when you got started." Right? Ted, I saw how you dealt with this difficult situation, right? And I don't know how you did it, right? And people are watching; they're watching that movie that you are the star of, right? And you don't even know. And then you'll have someone come to you and be like, "Hey, can you talk to me about this or talk to me about that?" And you become a subject matter expert in some aspect of whatever it is you're doing right before someone else's eyes, right? So really, someone is watching. There's an audience watching how you deal with it. Nina, I'm sure there's people that watched you over the years and just said, "Wow, I could never have dealt with that. I could never have turned it around into a successful, into all the successful ventures and to have the attitude, and just the positivity that you show." So just again, people are watching. You got an audience, and I say give them a good show.
That's good. That's real good.
Great advice. And always
Hmm.
remember there's somebody that's watching you. And I think a lot of times you go through things not just because of you, but because of that person who's watching you and needs your inspiration. So and that's the other thing is like if you have a podcast or something like that, there are people who don't like, they don't comment, they don't share, they don't retweet, but they watch.
Right. That's true.
And then one day they come up to you and say, "Oh man, I've been following you for years," and you had no idea. You never see their name come up anywhere.
All the time. Yeah.
And Neena said something earlier that ties right into that, where she was saying it's not about how many likes, right?
Right.
If it's all about impact, right, and if you impacted 1 or 1 million, right, you made a difference out there.
That's right.
So yeah, definitely, you're obviously making a major impact out there in the world.
For sure.
Mhm.
For sure. And my piece for this segment it's a quote, and it's one of my favorite quotes, and it comes from Napoleon Hill, where in his Think and Grow Rich book he says that every adversity carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit.
Love it.
And that's something I just try to think about all the time. And again, and when we talked about earlier, I think when you're going through something, you have to ask yourself certain questions. What can I learn from this? What's the benefit? Where's the gift? Those types of questions. But I think if you have that perspective that there is a seed to an equal or greater benefit to what I'm going through, then you know that this is all for a higher purpose and it's not just about you. And I think Neena is the perfect example of that. And I mean, there are all kinds of lives who have been benefited just from her testimony and how she's succeeding now. So this has been an amazing episode. Neena, we thank you for joining us. How can the people connect with you to get your book and access the podcast and other information you have?
Well, I mean, they could go right to my site. So it's straighttalknosugaradded.com. And that's where you'll find me on all social media platforms, or with Neena Perez, which is Neena Perez. So yeah, anywhere. I'm everywhere.
Is that where they can get the suit? At 24 hours.
The 24-hour
No,
suit.
I have not started that yet, Ted.
Okay.
24
Okay.
hours right now.
It's coming. Neena's suit.
There you go.
Come tomorrow and get it.
That's so funny.
See, I learned something today. I learned that there's such a thing as a 24-hour soup. I never knew that.
Well, yeah, if you want to make a really good bone broth, you got to start early and let it sit on your stove in the back on low heat forever. Get that nice broth going. Absolutely.
Nice.
All right. So before we come to the close, please remember, don't forget to share the show.
Share the show.
That's
Share
right.
the show.
Share,
Don't-
like, and subscribe. Make sure that you guys go ahead and redo, retweet, Facebook, all of that, and help
Whatever,
these guys
read.
out grow their channel. Absolutely.
That's right. We appreciate you all.
Yeah, absolutely. We certainly do. Well, that concludes our show for today. Thank you again to Neena Perez. And until next time, have a great one.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening. You are the best, okay? I have the best podcasting community ever. I really do. And I appreciate you guys being on here. Make sure you go on to winject.com/register, winject.com/register, and register for my free community, because I want to be really connected with you, and I want us to brainstorm and be with each other and connect in a deeper way. If you are looking for coaching, please make sure that you also email me at hello@straighttalknosugaradded.com. I work with women and I help them develop that business that they are envisioning in their hearts so that they can win. Thank you guys so much for being here. Love you, love you, love you. This is Neena Perez, Straight Talk, No Sugar Added. Until next time.
Dermavant Sciences CEO Todd Zavodnik shares why they're driven to change how chronic skin diseases are treated.
In dermatology, the two largest disease states are psoriasis and atopic dermatitis, known as eczema. And the option that's been available for the last 30, 40, 50 years has been steroidal topical treatment options. And there's so many limitations to that. Our mission is to move that to a non-steroidal once-a-day treatment option.
Visit dermavant.com to learn more.
Israel is 5,690 miles away from the US, 11 hours by plane. Hate travels faster. In a comment, in a post, in a second. Jewish hate is up 388% in the US. Black hate, Muslim hate, and Asian hate are up too. When one hate rises, they all do. Let's stand up to all hate together. Share and wear the blue square from standuptojewishhate.org.